you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
I'm the walrus. Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Just been revoked.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Because it is my name!
I see dead.
Today, Junior?
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What?
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Like scary.
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
The price is wrong, bitch.
Welcome to Critics Not Cynics, the podcast that tries to prove that you can be a critic without being a cynic. And if we did this right, we're finally on YouTube. After much trial and tribulation and frustration, I think I finally got it worked out. If it didn't work out, you're just listening to this on, the normal podcasting stuff.
Regular way.
So that's, no different there. But yes, now you can see our lovely faces. Obviously, I'm Patrick, and this is Leslie. And
I guess we'll be side by side. I don't know which side we'll be on, but
Yeah, I don't know when we tested this before if you were, if I was on the opposite side of when I was reviewing or when I was watching it, but we'll find out once this goes up and goes live and I get it all edited and hopefully run into no problems. But apologies beforehand if this isn't the super fancy, smooth show like you're used to on YouTube. We're still learning, and we don't have
total beginners
nearly the time to just dive in and really research this stuff. But hopefully you'll be happy to finally see us and get to know us a little bit better, and then you can picture who you hate when you don't like our reviews.
Oh no.
And we're glad to test it out with this first episode, especially because we planned on our Parks and Rec thing, and we'll be recording that here before too long, so you can see me die when I'm watching that show. But without further ado, yes, this week we're continuing on our path of our journey into What If with The Watcher. We're covering episodes 3 and 4. Full spoilers ahead. I mean, I know episode 4 just came out this week, and this will be Monday when this episode airs. So it's maybe too soon for some people to get it watched, but this is your warning then. Go and watch it. So let's just dive right on in. So episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? So this episode, I think, had a lot of potential to be a really, really good what if, but ultimately it failed. Or not completely failed, because I was intrigued. And I know you were grossed out for one particular scene. But I don't know. It didn't. The weight of the reveal and everything and why so-and-so was doing what they were doing, it didn't really hit hard for me, like maybe it did for other viewers.
I think maybe that's due to the time length of the episode, like when you're dealing with something so compressed.
Especially since they're compressing, like you're saying, compressing Iron Man 2, Thor, and Incredible Hulk all in like one 33-minute episode.
Yeah.
And that's kind of really hard to do, especially when you're trying to give each character kind of their own due. You've got a subvert plot to the episode as well. But it picks up right there in Iron Man 2 with the sir, donut. Can you please step out of the donut? And tragically, changes right there with Tony dying.
Yeah.
Did you expect that's how? Because I don't know about you. I don't typically watch any of the promos if they come out with any promos for like next week's episode. But were you expecting that right off with this episode?
I don't know that right off. Like once Tony did die, that's what I expected for the rest of the episode.
Okay.
I don't know that when it just said lost, I wasn't sure if that means are they lost out in space somewhere, in the multiverse somewhere? What does lost mean,
Right.
But yeah, once he died, then I was kind of like, oh, you're going to kill them all? How are we going to do that? And I was interested to see how that was going to happen and who was going to be behind it. I don't know if the weight of it was, like I said, just because of the time length of the episode when you are compressing that much into 40 minutes or something?
33.
Yeah, when, that is a very compressed time. I did like the animation better in this one.
Okay.
I still like it when it's further away. When it's just on their faces, I really don't like it. But I did like the fight sequences. I like that Black Widow got some really nice fight sequences, got her elevator scene, Winter Soldier elevator scene. I liked that. I like that we finally saw Betty in the MCU. We haven't seen her since that movie. Yeah,
basically. I mean, and technically we still haven't seen her because that's still, the Incredible Hulk.
but we've seen her in something that's canon for the second time ever.
Right.
Geez, it's been a long time. What's happened to her? They just they pushed that Hulk movie just keep scooting it out to the side.
Redheaded stepchild. That's all it is. It's we acknowledge it, but we don't acknowledge it.
Yeah. I like that it was Hank. I like that it was him in the yellow jacket suit.
I did like that.
And being evil Hank Pym. I liked that, but I don't know. The thing that felt off to me personally was the ending when Captain Marvel was there as well.
Okay.
That just felt weird because I don't know, because the Hope thing to me personally would have meant more if it was just him and Cap's shield and that was that. But then to have her right there, I was like, eh. And I don't hate her character, but I feel like that didn't fit. I don't know, because I guess if I was absolutely loved her character as much as I love Steve and Peggy, I might have enjoyed seeing her there. But when he's talking about, and you got to keep hope or whatever and say, welcome back, Captain, to me that meant a lot more just right there. And then her presence ruined it.
Yeah, I think that it was a miscalculation because I think when he pulls out the beeper earlier, that would have been the more appropriate time for her to show up. And I mean, not necessarily that they would have had to kill her or anything, but that would have been more appropriate there. Then it would have made maybe more sense of her being there at the end with him. But I do agree with you. A better ending is him just there with Cap. Yeah. But I think it's also them still trying to do damage control for how unwelcomed Captain Marvel was to the MCU. So it was well, let's see if we can edge her in again and make her more likable without really trying to do it. The one I think, and again, this is the part that you were grossed out on. The weakest part I think in the animation for me was Hulk's death.
Yeah.
Because it didn't look right. He looked like, Hulk, and then he looked like a balloon. It just didn't.
It just popped.
Yeah, it just didn't quite seem contortion and growth that would be consistent, but it is the animation style, and they only have so much control over what they can actually do with it, and it just looked silly. Like you're supposed to kind of get the concept that he's feeling pain and also confusion, and it just looks goofy. And then the poof afterwards is just kind of like, yeah, whatever,
gross.
But I did I liked Black Widow getting to be more kind of undercover. Like what was strong about this was it was a whodunit, but it just wasn't nearly as captivating as if they could have given it maybe 2 episodes or even 3 episodes to really develop the mystery. Because obviously when she goes to the library after Hulk's death, and she goes, Hope, it's Hope, I knew immediately. Like that I don't know if that's just me being so tied into the MCU and knowing the characters or what not, but I knew like when they're going, what's Hope mean? What's Hope mean? I'm like, what's Hope Van Dyne? Like, it's because of Hope.
Did you know immediately that it was going to be Hank?
Actually, I kind of was thinking it might have been Janet, but then I was like, well, her thing was marked like X, for dead on the computer screen. So it's like, well, the only other logical explanation would be Hank, because Scott, has had no introduction to her yet within this universe.
Either that it could be her or it could be Hank.
Yeah.
Because I don't recall it saying that Hope was dead on the screen. I remember Janet's picture being there.
Yeah, I can't say for sure if I caught that part of it. The one other real upside was Loki in this episode.
Yeah.
Especially when you're almost actually believing him that he's really there because of Thor's death. And then, of course, he goes into his whole Avengers spiel at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool to see him and Fury team up to take down Hank.
Yeah. One of the favorite things that I liked when I go back, and I watch my reviewers on YouTube, everybody's like, yeah, we're getting to see Fury kick some butt, and they're all into it. And then they realize, oh, well, it's Loki. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Whereas I suspected from the beginning that it was Loki, because of the previous scene of him going to make a deal with the devil, and because just kind of the way he was talking about, she wouldn't care because she's dead, and I'm like, I don't feel like it's something Fury would say, but I bet you that's Loki.
Yeah, it definitely was kind of like foreshadowed that it was like, okay, this is a little too like callous and uncaring for even Fury, and so it didn't really surprise me. And then with how quick he was, it was like, oh, it's very obvious that it's going to be Loki. And like I said, I did like that it was Hank in the yellow jacket costume, because we've already associated that to a villain, and it makes sense. Like, he's gone the villain's turn, and even though I couldn't quite tell it, but I was able to pick up on sort of it, I did appreciate that Michael Douglas came back and did his voice, because that at least also adds a little bit of credibility to it. And what we've talked about with some of the previous episodes, and what I know I will definitely bring up with the next episode, some of the characters just fall flat when they're not voiced by the actual actors. And again, we know contracts and schedules and stuff like that. I thought Lake Bell did fine as Black Widow, but it just something's not right when you're not hearing Robert Downey Jr's voice. It works. Know. Well, this guy was close enough.
Yeah, I mean, he's voiced him before.
Right. But it was more weight when Mark Ruffalo's doing Banner, like when you compare and contrast the two, because we're used to Mark Ruffalo as Banner, so it makes more sense when you're hearing that voice come out. Some of the other side characters like Ross and Betty, like, it doesn't really matter as much for them because they're kind of side characters anyways.
Pretty much.
But
sidelined.
It's more important when you have those main lines. And again, it didn't bother me that Brie Larson wasn't there for Captain Marvel, but if Samuel L. Jackson's not voicing Fury in this episode, and even Clark Gregg as Coulson, I don't know if those two characters would have worked so well.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate everyone who came back, and I do appreciate the effort of the actors who are doing their best to come as close as possible to the approximation of the actors who do the roles. But ultimately, this episode just like it really just flittered out for me. It didn't keep that mystery really alive and me going, okay, what's happening next? What's going on next? I will say I did want to see what was going to come after finding Cap, after having Marvel there. Well,
after having Loki take over.
Right. Because it's like now you've got this resistance force that's starting up. So it had potential. It just ultimately didn't completely work for me.
Yeah. I feel like I chalk that up to the time element.
And I would agree with that too. I do think that they tried to juggle a lot of storylines and a lot of different plots. And it just
in 30 minutes.
Yeah, it just crumbles because when we talk about the next episode, I think it took its time right, and it even extended it by only 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes helped with the story that they tell in that episode. So and pacing for this episode, but it just ultimately was one that was a little lackluster. It's not awful. It's definitely one I would go back and rewatch and revisit down the road, but it just kind of fell under the weight of what it was trying to do. Because that's a very interesting concept of what if the Avengers die before Avengers? How does the world combat Thanos? How do they combat Loki? And now you've got only 2 known characters kind of left out of that roster.
I wouldn't say that this one was the worst I've ever seen. It's not terrible. It's just just neutral.
Out of the ones we've seen so far, it's my least favorite.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. We have Peggy.
Yeah.
What was the second one?
T'Challa as Star-Lord.
Oh, T'Challa as Star-Lord. Yeah, I mean, honestly, none of them take a number 1 spot. Not even Peggy. But this next episode that we're about to talk about, this is the number 1 spot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So as for score for this episode, I think I'm going to just land on a flat 3 out of 5.
That's what I was thinking.
Because I appreciate the effort and I appreciate for what they were trying to do with it and the story they were trying to tell. It just didn't all come together in the right ways, especially how this next episode is.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's it for What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes. On to What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands, Episode 4.
The best episode so far.
Yes, hands down. So, again, not having seen the promos or anything like that, I didn't know what, like you said, with the lost, you didn't know if it meant space or death or what. Mm-hmm. I didn't exactly know what heart meant. I'm thinking literal heart, and
his
not
heart
his
out of
hands.
His chest.
And he's using the magic to sustain his life. But this was completely different than what I was expecting. And again, onto the voice acting bit. The reason this episode, I think, works so well is because virtually everybody is back. Tilda Swinton's back as the Ancient One. Benedict Cumberbatch is back as Doc Strange. You even have Leslie Bibb coming back as Christine Everhart. Rachel McAdams as Christine. Benedict Wong as, Wong. And, it just, that helped this episode, I think, works so well.
Well, I would say one other thing that I think really helps this episode, because it's mostly Stephen Strange on camera, you know what I mean, on animated, is that Benedict Cumberbatch has voice acting experience. Yep. And, he's really good at it. And I think that, really, really helped, too. Because even, in last episode, we have Tom doing Loki. It still looks weird to me because of the animation. It sounds all right, but it's not I would say as good as the voice acting that Benedict did in this episode.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Absolutely. And so as we learn from the beginning of the episode, his heart is actually Christine. And Christine dies in the accident, and he's actually perfectly fine. He survives the accident, doesn't have the injuries to his hands, but he still goes the same road. and becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. But that lingering regret of losing Christine is what causes him to use the Time Stone and try to prevent it, and hell all breaking loose.
Yes, we get the time machine, just Marvel animated style.
Basically. And I just really like how this episode handles grief. Because again, going back to what some people who complained about WandaVision and how Wanda is just a villain because of what she did for her own selfish reasons. It's episodes like this and a show like WandaVision. It shows what grief can do to someone if they're unable to actually process it and overcome it. And it just weighs on them, and they do anything in their power to fix it. And his actions in this episode are no different than her actions in WandaVision. Yeah. They're virtually the same, except one learns how to go past it and one doesn't.
Yeah. And I would say that in the show so far, like holding out Falcon and Winter Soldier, in WandaVision, in Loki, in this show, we've had a really strong theme about how people experience grief and where they go from it. Like, especially in Loki. Loki's discovering, like, grief of, like, he's dealing with himself, but grief of the life he lost, when he's seeing the rest of his life and how it would have played out and different things like that. And then we have Sylvie dealing with grief in a different way and changing it more into that anger and vengeance. Yeah. And we've got, like you said, Wanda's dealing with her grief in WandaVision. Now we're dealing with grief in this episode. I feel like it's been a big theme for the show so far, and I don't know if that's like a planned thing or it just kind of happened, because I don't really feel like there's much grief going on in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but
I mean, outside,
outside of
Bucky and like maybe just Sam losing like Steve as a buddy and a partner, but like it's stretching. It's absolutely stretching to try to say that that's what this is. That theme runs through all of the shows, at least. Because even if we talk about the previous episode, that's Hank's grief is losing hope and not being able to get over it, and holding those who he feels is responsible accountable while taking the lives of innocents who had nothing to do with it. Yeah. But yes, I definitely did not expect the split of having two Doctor Strange in this episode, in that battle, which I thought was really well done, even though I don't like the outcome of it. But you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
And it's the way the story tells. But I think also because my complaint in the previous two, or in the first two episodes, and it's a little bit of a complaint in episode 3, is Uatu just kind of being background fixture. He's not really doing anything. He's barely even commenting. But in this episode, when he's delivering his commentary, you have Strange go, "Hello?
Yeah.
Who's there?
Yeah.
Someone there?" And it's like that was the extent I expected. I didn't expect any more. And then you get to the final scene and you have direct confrontation between him and Uatu. And Uatu sticking to his guns and going, I can't interfere.
Yeah.
Now, I think that maybe at some point he's going to break that rule, and possibly because of this episode being partially responsible, because he literally watched the death of a universe because of one person. But I really liked that he finally got to interact with the characters within the episode.
Yeah, that was the other thing that really appealed to me about this episode, was the fact that he actually, for that little bit that he did, interacted with what was going on. That grabbed me, like, immediately. I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's, for me, like, what pushes this one ahead of the Peggy episode, Captain Carter episode.
Yeah, and I would agree, too. It's just one of those things where every facet of it works. Like, I can't find any real complaint I thought the Ancient One, being the one is the one who's basically causing Christine's death all those other times to keep him on the path that he's on and not being able.
She's not the one causing it. She said it's an absolute point.
Well,
I think the universe is causing it. I don't think she's purposely making sure that Christine dies every time.
I don't know. I kind of took it as a little bit of, because it's kind of like Doctor Who rules. You know, there's those fixed moments in times that if someone tries to change it, it will destroy everything. So I won't say she was maybe directly involved, but I'm sure she kind of nudged things in the right way, because obviously he was able to break it by devouring all the power of all the Dark Ones. But, you know, I kind of felt like maybe not directly involved, but I did feel like she was guiding some of it, because she obviously was able to split both of them off to create a contingency plan for the one Strange who was set on his path. So I don't know. That's just my read on it. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I kind of took it more as just like, you know, kind of like you said, like Doctor Who rules is the universe is doing it. Nobody's like purposefully out there like making sure that a death happens or that the volcano explodes in Pompeii. It's always going to happen no matter what you do. Like, so I feel like Christine was always going to die regardless, no matter what he did. And I don't feel that like the Ancient One had to be doing anything, nudging anything. I think that's how this universe was going. And she split them in order to attempt to save it. But, you know, I don't feel, because she's already dead at this point. So I don't know that she has enough power, enough agency to come back and really influence everything.
Possibly. I mean, you make a valid point. I'm not going to disagree with you on that, but I don't know. I just kind of felt like because he was doing everything possible to prevent it, that it just so happens that everything he tries was then met with something. You would have thought that if without some type of outside influence, that eventually he would have succeeded without having to go the steps he needed to go. But I will also say that the final scene is probably the most powerful scene written, at least maybe even for the MCU. It's just because I know I messaged you after watching. I was like, be prepared to be depressed. And it's so sad, but like, and it's not necessarily to be depressed in a bad way, because like I don't know of anyone who may not have tried to go through the same routes he went through to save a loved one. We all have that person in our lives who we would do anything for to try to bring back or prevent something bad from happening to them. So I think like we all understand Steven's struggle here, and that just final scene of losing Christine for the final time. And you know, not only all those multiple times, but now for the final time, because even though he's in the mirror realm, there's nothing else. There's literally nothing else.
So just to maybe branch a little bit off topic because we're talking about that scene, I personally wondered, because I feel like at some point these what if episodes might come together somehow. And is Doctor Strange going to be him like in this gem universe thing? And they're going to, like, I don't know. I was just wondering, like, he's just out there in his little bubble thing floating around. Like, eventually, is he going to, you know.
See, that's what we don't know yet from these. Because, like, you know, they feel like they each have a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
That they might be building up to something more down the road, but whether that's just additional episodes set in their universes, or a big climax at the end of the season, I do just know that, and we talked about it in the prior episodes reviews, that the writer said that like Peggy was going to be a very important character. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So we might just be getting another episode set within her universe, or we may be getting another episode later on. But yeah, I don't know. It was definitely a very good episode don't have much else to say on it. And, obviously I think anyone could kind of foretell what score I'm coming up with. It's a 5.
It's 5, yeah.
Yeah.
5 out of 5.
I mean, and I'm looking on IMDb right now, and it's the highest rated episode out of all of them.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think it's part of what it is the confluence of having the voice actors being the actual actors. And that just adds a little bit more credence to what they're doing and the story they're telling. And it feels like they've paced out the story accurately and adequately. And, they knew from point A where they needed to get to and point B, and they didn't try to cram things in there. I mean, they even do their little montage of him just getting all of the dark ones. And, just I like your cape,
yeah,
but Bugs not so much.
Bugs, yeah.
Yeah. So it did what it needed to do. It had its levity moments, but it also had its very serious moments. And I don't know if I would say, like, even though this is animated and the MCU is pretty much fairly kid friendly, I don't know if this is one to necessarily show kids, like young kids. If they're in their 10s or teens, they're probably fine. But younger kids, like my 4-year-old. Yeah, my nephew, I don't know if this is one I would be like, oh yeah, you can come out of this all happy and uplifted. There's nothing that's really like objectionable, but it is just a very dark episode and very serious, and it just. It's
just kind of like some of the imagery might be scary. Kind of like if you wouldn't show them Black Cauldron, maybe don't show them this.
Right, or even Dark Crystal.
Or Dark Crystal.
So, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about these 2 episodes. I'm enjoying the series. I know, has the animation gotten a little bit more? Have you adjusted to it a little bit more now with 4 episodes in?
I'm used to it. I still feel like, even this episode, when it's on their face, I don't feel like, I don't know, I don't like it. It's like, I know the point of it is that there's not a ton of, like, animation or whatever. Yeah. But I don't like it. It's kind of like a weird face on a balloon sort of a thing. I don't know. It looks weird. But when it's back, and you see like what do you want, like the widescreen or whatever, like when they're not like right on to somebody's face, I feel like it looks pretty good, and I think it looks really good in the action sequences. And like I said, I think the animated fight between the 2 Stevens was really cool, and the horror element of like the shadow snatching him from behind and stuff was really good. I'd love to see that in live action.
See, I'm hoping, since kind of Multiverse of Madness is hopefully going to be more branded towards a little bit horror, we might get kind of some of those moments. And what would be interesting is maybe this Doctor Strange shows up in that. Who knows? Cool. I know that so I don't even know how they're going to do Multiverse of Madness. I don't even know how they're doing No Way Home, because I'm like, you guys. And this isn't like a bad criticism or anything, but it's like you guys are shoving a lot in there. How are you going to keep that contained into 2 hours at minimum and tell a satisfying story? Because a rumor came out that Wanda is going to be facing off against one of the Fox X-Men in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And it's like, okay. But like, this is Doctor Strange's movie, and I know she's a part of it. But like, and Loki is supposed to show up in it, and I'm sure it's feeling.
Is how many years has it been? Like 11, 12? Like, they have my trust.
Oh no,
and until I see them like fail miserably, like just completely, slip on a banana peel, land on your butt. Like, they have my trust. I think they'll probably pull it off in a good way. The thing that I've noticed in these 10, 11, 12 years of watching the movies and watching reviewers and stuff is sometimes I feel like the hype gets built a little too much.
Yeah.
And expectations get set of people, I want to see this, and I want to see this, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this fan story comes out that's this, and it's this, and it's this. And then when the movie comes out and it's objectively really good, but it doesn't meet that bar that you set in your mind, then, everybody's, oh, it's terrible, it's the worst movie ever, blah, blah, blah. you know.
Spider-Man No Way Home is probably going to fall victim to that.
There's a lot of nostalgia with the Tobey Maguire movies.
Well, and so, because, I mean, there's been all the rumors about Tobey and Andrew being on set and stuff, that we might see all three of them on the screen at the same time. We obviously saw Doc Ock in the trailer, and we saw
Pumpkin Bomb?
the Pumpkin Bomb, and fairly certain Willem Dafoe is going to be in this. But, like, that's the thing, and I understand they were kind of at a dilemma. Like, as you know, I wanted the trailer like immediately, and if this is the only trailer they released, I'm fine with that. Like, I don't want them to spoil any of the story outside of what they've shown us as kind of what's causing everything to go crazy. Yeah. Because you can run into moments like that, or you can spoil really big moments. I think them showing Doc Ock in this trailer was specifically because it came out a long time ago that Alfred Molina was going to be in this as the Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock. And I know that even if they hadn't released this trailer, I probably would have been fine, but they were kind of screwed by a trailer leak, an unfinished trailer leak. And I saw the leaked trailer. And yeah, the CGI effects like that was completely unfinished. But since that made it out there, their only response was, okay, fine, we're going to release the actual teaser trailer.
Yeah.
So I'm fine as long as they don't push it off, because I know that they've already talked about pushing off Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Do not push Spider-Man off, because then I will riot. Because that's the one. I am seeing Shang-Chi soon. Actually, we're seeing it the day after recording here. And so I'm excited to see that. And then my next big excitement is Spider-Man. Like, Eternals can be whatever. But Spider-Man, I am really looking forward to. And that trailer, I think, is a really good setup and has me amped up enough that I'm not going to make any fan theories or speculations. I'm just going to go, okay, I saw that. I wonder if that's going to be that. I know that's happening. Could they come in? Could they not come in? Oh, I guess I'll see. So,
yeah. I want to know why the Sanctum was like all iced over in winter.
Yeah.
That was weird.
See, so when I watched the leaked version, I thought it was just all white because they were going to, post edit, effects in. And then when I watched the actual trailer, I'm like, no, it's all actually white. and I believe this is just my little thought with Wong leaving the Sanctum. That's where he shows up in Shang-Chi, because he's the one that's fighting Abomination in that cage fight. So, it's maybe Shang-Chi's happen right around the same time as Spider-Man. So, like,
maybe they're doing another big week sort of a thing where this takes place this day, this takes place this day.
Yeah. Yeah, I would expect that Spider-Man happens after Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah.
All the events and stuff, but like that part of him going off is him going into that movie. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure they probably didn't use anything but maybe from like the first 30 minutes of the movie sort of.
Oh,
stuff. That's
maybe 30, maybe some from halfway. It depends on
short little pieces that they could pick.
Yeah, it depends on how much that they're going to spend with him, with everyone knowing. If that's going to be 30 or 40 minutes. Also, we don't know the runtime. So if could be 2.5 hours, could be almost 3 hours. Who knows? But I'm definitely excited for it. So don't push it off. I've seen these other movies getting delayed again, and I don't want them to be pushed off. But that's I think that's going to do it for hopefully our first YouTube video.
See how this goes.
So we appreciate it, and like I said, we're sorry that there's not all the polish and bells and whistles as you might be used to with other YouTubers. But hey, after talking about getting up on YouTube for over a year, we're think we're finally there. So big things to come. I know I've got a lot of equipment stuff put on my wish list on Amazon, so we can upgrade other stuff.
Rent an office space so we can have the same lighting and whatnot.
Yeah, and trust me, that was one thing I looked at too, was lighting. Even though I like this mic, I just looked up an even more expensive mic. Still got to look at getting a PC rig and everything like that. But yeah, we're advancing. We're finally getting there. So we're gonna change up our ending spiel here a little bit. So if you're not following us, you can now subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, the thumbs up, all that normal YouTube lingo that you hear from all the YouTubers. But if you're listening only to the audio version, obviously we're on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. We are back on SoundCloud now, Google Play, Audible, Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your
Pretty
audio podcasts. And then you can follow us on social media at criticsnotcynics on Twitter, and on Facebook at Critics Not Cynics Podcast. So, all right, guys, we'll talk to you next time.